Hello, everyone. You are listening to Bloombox Growing Deeper. And before we start with this episode, we wanted to invite you to make our podcast better. And the best way to do that and to let other people know, and I tell you this at the end every time, is to rate and review us. And especially on Apple Podcasts. It helps get the word out of who we are and what we do and why you like listening to the podcast. So for the next month, let's say, we are going to do a little bit of fun competition. Make Hanna pay.
Yeah, I think this sounds excellent. How?
Yes. So all you need to do is review us on Apple Podcasts. And starting with this episode and 1 month out from it, I am going to donate $1 for every review to the Bloombox program to use for whatever Sarah deems necessary for the Bloombox program. So it's money for Sarah to do good work through Bloombox. So please rate and review us. Right now, you can pause and come back because we haven't started yet. Rate and review and make Hanna pay. Make me pay.
So today is March 6th. So through April 6th, you have till April 6th to add up reviews. Mm-hmm. And as far as we can tell, the only place to do this is Apple Podcasts. But you can go to their website, even if that's not your podcast player, and I'll put that link in the notes.
So please go ahead and do that. And thank you for supporting Bloombox.
Welcome to Bloombox Growing Deeper. I'm Sarah.
I'm Hanna, and we're on a mission to help you become the gardener you want to be. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our latest episode of Bloombox Growing Deeper. We're so excited to have you here to talk about flowers.
Yeah, you guys loved our Great Plants episode so much that we thought we would do something similar and just talk through flowers we're excited for adding to our gardens in the spring, or ones we think that every native plant gardener should try, ones that we think work really well for people. And we're going to try to mention things we know are available to you. Mm-hmm. We're definitely going to talk about some things that will be harder to find, but we're going to really try to call out the things that I know you can get at a nursery that maybe isn't as focused on natives.
Right. And I'm going to warn you now, I have a giant list, a paper list of plants. So if you hear paper rustling, that's what it is. I'm sorry, everyone.
We have no idea if I'm going to be able to take that sound out or not.
So if you hear nothing, just know that Sarah's a genius.
Or Adobe is very good at what it says it does.
There you go. All right, should we jump right in?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting with spring. We're going to go by season here for bloom time, not other things.
There were like 100 ways we thought about organizing this list for you. Some, Hanna just gave me really strange looks like we're not doing that.
Do you have a pen? I just caught a typo in Spring Affair News that I want to fix.
Another one?
Before we get it printed.
Oh, no. That's what she's reading is like the printout of our newspaper.
Which should be hitting your mailboxes any day now.
That's so
of
exciting.
This podcast.
But you're still editing it. That's terrifying.
Well, we record a couple weeks early.
Not that early.
We tend to move pretty quickly once we are ready. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to do spring bloomers, summer, fall, and then grasses separate. And if we get real wild, we're going to separate grasses and sedges. But I don't know how good we're going to do at staying on time today.
Well, the only thing that's going to keep us on time is I was hoping to leave work early today.
Me too.
For my birthday.
It is both of our birthday weeks.
Yeah.
So we need to celebrate. Not release day, recording day.
Right.
So I think you should absolutely leave work early.
Same to you. It's been a tough week.
It's been a long week.
So that's okay. We have coffee. Well, I have coffee. You have tea.
I have
somewhere.
Diet Coke.
And
it's been that kind of day.
And we're going to play with plants.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. What is your first spring bloomer recommendation?
Ooh. So I'm going to go.
Are we focusing just on native
No.
Okay.
I mean, this is the list I pulled up is all of the Bloombox plant cards that have ever existed. So they're going to be mostly native and well adapted.
Right.
And you've got the Spring Affair list, which gets a little wilder.
Can be anything.
Yeah. But still, we would never sell a plant at Spring Affair that we wouldn't recommend.
Correct.
So, my favorite spring flower is false indigo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my favorite. If I could plant my whole yard.
That's spring and not summer. It feels summery to me. But I think you're right. I think it's just because when I think spring, I think like hellebore and pasque flower, which are super early.
Bulbs.
Or bulbs.
Maybe I should have started with bulbs because bulbs are critical to my spring garden.
Right.
In fact, I keep buying them and then I go to plant them and everywhere I dig, there was already a bulb.
Right.
So we'll start with, I'll back up.
Okay.
We'll start with bulbs.
Let's start with bulbs.
My favorite bulb is crocus. Mm-hmm. I just love how they look top heavy. They're such a tiny plant, but the flower's actually kind of big compared to the stem. And they just like pop up out of the ground and look happy. And then they get snowed on and they're still purple.
Yeah. My favorite bulb for the spring, because I have a favorite summer bulb too.
Ooh, okay.
My favorite bulb for the spring, let me take that back. The summer one, once again, I'm blending seasons here.
Maybe we should start by defining the seasons.
Here's a peek behind the podcast curtain. Clearly, we haven't planned this one.
I rolled into the office about 10 minutes before we were scheduled to start recording.
It's fine.
We started by talking about how I was going to spend the money you all are going to earn for me by making Hanna pay.
That's right. That's fine.
So spring is kind of tough. I think you're showing people the same thing that happens in my head when I try to plan pollinator gardens, because pollinator gardens are supposed to bloom spring to fall, right? But they're also supposed to be well designed with multiple colors and sizes and heights. And sometimes my brain explodes because I'm like, well, is May spring or summer?
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends on what school system you live in.
It's like me trying to figure out grant match.
Yeah.
My head explodes. I get it. Yeah, because May, I think, falls into spring a little bit more. But even like beginning of June, especially depending on where you are in the state, can still be spring blooms.
I mean, when we go out for Wildflower Week to the Panhandle, they're like, well, we just started planting last week.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Spring changes, and the weather too. If we have a really rainy or late snows, then we're not even like out looking at stuff. But if we have some early warm-ups, our bulbs could be coming up here in a week.
Which does seem like this year might be one of those.
I think we could see some very early bulbs this year.
Yeah. So in that case, one of my earlier blooming, let's just put it that way. One of my earlier blooming bulbs that I like is, of course, tulips.
Yeah.
And the previous owner of our house planted a lot of varieties of tulips. So they have like the ones with that are yellow, but then they have like a burst of red in the middle. They're very pretty. I'll try to find some pictures. And those I always love seeing come up because everything around them is still brown. And then you just get this burst of green and color. And usually right around Easter time.
Did you get one of the black tulips that we ordered this spring?
I think
or
so.
This fall for spring.
But remember that time was very hard and busy.
Yeah.
So I just went home and planted, because that was before I was going to go to Cancun. That's right. Sorry, everyone.
You were in a hurry.
I did go to Cancun. It was amazing. I highly recommend. And we were it was like the ground was going to freeze while we were gone. So I was in the dark that night, like before we left, like planting bulbs, trying to just get it done. So I do not remember. I didn't mark the bulbs. I just randomly planted them.
Well, we'll find out.
So I'm going to find out maybe soon.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Another peek behind the scenes. When I order plants for Bloombox or the greenhouse, and we're already going to pay a very large amount of shipping, we definitely tack on other orders. And so when we ordered Bloombox bulbs last year, we got some really experimental things.
And we do pay for our own.
Yes, we get charged for them.
Yes. But we get a bulk discount that way.
We do.
In shipping.
And they already come in the shipped order. And then we have this fun round robin of invoicing each other to maintain proper practices.
Right. So that's my early spring. And then, of course, as we've all heard me talk about many times, my giant allium. Is my other one, which is technically a bulb.
Oh, I have the hardest time with those. I just want to walk by and swat them. I should just plant one so I can bop it.
And that one's generally a little bit later in the spring, like late May.
I think of the allium is a good plant to highlight when I think about my struggle with whether things are spring or summer.
Yeah.
And part of that is because the alliums we buy in bulb packs, there's a lot of bees in this conversation. I'm having trouble with it. Are not native ones, and they are really early spring bloomers. Our native alliums do tend more toward late May, early June.
And then we have alliums that bloom almost all summer.
Yeah.
So I think allium just can be just kind of like goldenrod.
It's a large genus.
Yeah, there's a long bloom time for them sometimes too.
Okay. I think that covers my earliest things. Iris is also in there.
Well, yeah.
And I love that dwarf iris. I think it's so cute. So I plant a lot of that.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about, if you want really early flowers that aren't bulbs, of course, you need hellebore.
Yeah. You have a lot of hellebore.
Linton rose. It's my favorite. I have to have something that blooms super early because it gives me hope.
How much shade does that take?
Mine is directly under a pine tree.
I need that. Because we're going to plant, I mean, you're all getting tired of hearing about this garden I'm going to plant, but it's right outside my front window, and I need something there.
Yeah.
And it's very shady, so
I would say it's full shade.
Okay. We're just going to start my shopping list.
Yeah. Because even since it's a pine tree, even in the winter,
it's still shady. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's going on the list.
Okay.
Hellebore for my front garden. Okay.
I have seen it in full sun too.
Okay, so it's adaptable. Violets for me just mean spring. I love violets. I would
put them in a salad.
Yes. We had a former coworker that made the most beautiful violet salads, and that was just so fun. And then you can make candied violets, although that I've heard is harder than it sounds.
Yeah, they're very delicate and small.
But I love how I have definitely purposefully planted violets, but my favorite ones are the ones that surprise us.
Yeah.
That like pop up out of the crack in a sidewalk, out of the snow, blooming purple.
I've never once planted a violet, but they're all over my yard.
I love it. And then some people get really fussy about it. Like, there's violets in my grass. And I'm like, there's purple in your grass. And when they're done blooming, you don't even know they're there.
Right.
Their leaves are they blend really well into turf grass.
Absolutely.
There's some turf people coming for me for that one. But I love violets, and I would love my whole yard to be sprinkled with them.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how about let's move to like
Later
the transition period between what is kind of spring and kind of summer.
That one's hard for me.
You can't steal my Baptisia.
I mean, I love your Baptisia. Baptisia is also one of my favorites for sure. Let me think about my garden.
Okay.
And what is blooming at that time. It's not in my garden, but I wish it was. And it's not native even at all. But I love peonies.
Ooh, yes.
I love peonies.
That's one of Nick's favorite flowers. So
I go to my parents' house and I steal them from them for sure.
Peonies and then we already said violets. Lilacs those are two of my favorites, and I love them. We both live in older neighborhoods, and so the violets and the peonies are kind of that mark of a garden that, was really well tended and it just lasts.
Yeah.
I love the smell of lilacs.
Yes. Okay, I'm still looking.
How about phlox?
Oh, yeah, phlox.
That's one that starts in the spring, but it can keep, depending on the species, it can keep blooming. I'm thinking mostly of like the ground cover ones.
I love me a pasque flower.
Yes.
But I know we talk a lot about
We talk
those,
a lot
so
about
I was trying
them.
to... geranium. That's
I'm
my
nodding.
number one.
I don't know why I'm nodding. No one can see me nod except for Hannah.
Geranium for sure.
I
especially
love geranium.
the scented geranium. Oh my god. I can just I wish I had a bed of scented geranium that I could just
You could make that happen.
lounge in.
Just,
I have a feeling the dog would do the same.
well, probably.
He'd ruin it.
You could just plant one of your vegetable beds with scented geraniums.
I could.
It'd be odd, but you could do it.
Hey, I've done odder things.
Also, I think it's ballerina geraniums. I'm going to put a picture
I'll
of
look
those
it
up.
up.
You have to look it up. You have to look at the flowers. They're like light purple, but their veins in the petals are dark purple. And I could just look at them for a very long time.
If that's true, we need to fix it in Spring Affair News.
Why?
Because it says it's white.
It is not white. Can tell you that. Here, you want the pen back?
We're going to have to...
You guys
That's
can just
okay.
listen to us edit things.
We're going to add that to our paid content. Listen to Hannah edit.
Wouldn't you love to pay for that?
Right? Okay. Also, how about bleeding heart?
Yeah.
Right? I love me a bleeding heart. And they bloom early. And I like that bleeding heart is almost always blooming in that like wetter time of spring. So it's always like a little misty, and then there's dew dripping off of them. They're just gorgeous, which is why we picked them for the cover of Spring Affair this year.
Let me see. Oh, yeah. It makes me think of walking in the woods on a kind of rainy day.
Yeah. Oh.
And also, who doesn't like to squish them?
I've never squished. Why would you squish them?
Not like you don't hurt them. They're full of air. They're like balloons.
Oh my gosh, I've never done that because I just don't want to.
You won't hurt them. You just like they're a little balloon. You can just.
Do you promise?
I promise. I mean, like, don't be violent.
I love bleeding hearts so much. I just don't even touch them. I cage them. I protect them as they were hearts.
They're very tough. But
Okay,
they're
well,
like
that's good to
balloon
know.
flower where you can kind of play with the bubble.
That makes sense.
I'm thinking we should probably let spring rest.
Well, I have one more.
Okay.
Columbine.
How did we forget Columbine?
I was thinking about it, but I couldn't remember if it was spring or summer.
It's spring.
But I found it, and it's spring. So, Columbine. I love it, and I'm working on interspersing it with my ferns.
Oh, that would be so pretty.
Yeah. So
And
far, it's been good.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that people who don't have patience with stuff that seeds get annoyed with it because it does seed itself around, but it's so non-aggressive about how it seeds.
Right. I actually find it very hard to let it go to seed because my ground is so covered in leaves and mulch and different things that it doesn't take very easily.
Are you saying that the reason people have seeding problems is because they don't leave the leaves?
I am saying that,
Okay.
yes. Yes, if your ground is covered, it's harder for things to seed in, right? Nature abhors a vacuum.
It does. It really, really does.
Mm-hmm. And then people, people have said, well, it won't reseed for me. And I say, well, are you mulching? And they say, yes. And then I go, well, maybe try not mulching around that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, what do I do about weeds? And I say, you pull them. Like, I don't know.
There is a tough moment because, I mean, we deal with this with any prairie garden, is that we have a lot of plants that are short-lived perennials. So the actual plant you dug a hole for is only going to live like 2 to 3 years. That plant can still be in your garden forever if you allow it to do what it wants to do and seed itself in. That won't happen if you have 3 inches of wood chip mulch or if you use pre-emergent.
Right. Yes. Absolutely.
So, you kind of have to relax on the weeds or be willing to pull some.
Yeah.
But be patient and your plants will fill fill the space.
They'll fill it. You ready for summer?
Yeah. I mean,
It's my least favorite.
in reality, yes. I suppose I'll stick to just picking plants. This is a long list.
Well, yeah, there's so many things that bloom in summer. I mean, more so we just have to narrow it down. So I'll do my first one.
Okay.
Primrose.
Pretty.
Right? It's pretty and it blooms forever.
It does.
So if you need a good like ground cover, I consider it a ground cover. Would you?
I would. Yeah.
If you need a good ground cover that consistently blooms, and not only that, but the foliage is
Silvery,
silver,
dusty
yeah.
kinda.
And so it stands out. I think it's a go-to. Everyone should have it.
I planted mine the week after Spring Affair last spring, and it bloomed like 2 weeks later, which was kind of crazy. And it stopped blooming when it froze.
Same.
It was the last thing in that garden blooming. My goldenrod stopped blooming before my primrose did.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's bright yellow, and it's
Yes.
kind of a papery flower. Like it looks like it could have been made out of tissue paper.
And it's not the same blooms that stay forever. It just continuously blooms.
Yeah, I
with
feel
new
like
ones.
each flower only lasts like maybe a day. It's one of those ones that closes up at night.
Yes.
So
Evening primrose.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. There's so many. I'm gonna come up with one. We're not fulfilling our helping people know where to get these. Promise very well.
So far, Spring Affair.
So far, Spring Affair. I'm gonna say we're gonna have to put that in the show notes. I'm just gonna write down a list of everything because I've already forgotten what we said.
Oh, and then where they are.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we've been moving through plants kind of fast.
We have been.
We will try to do better. But so far, you can get everything at Spring Affair.
Okay, well, I have one that you can't get at Spring Affair, but I am fairly positive you will be able to get at our other sales.
Okay.
Are you tired of hearing me say it? Bethany.
Yes. But
Another one that blooms all summer for me. It is perfect in my hell strip. I've never watered it, and it gets me more compliments than anything else in my garden.
You are starting to wear me down. I did add it to my think about this for fall bloom box list. So you're
Thank
starting
you.
to win that battle.
I would think so.
I think it probably deserves to be tried.
I would like to point out that I don't leverage my I'm in charge, put Bethany in.
No, I did get some feedback in an email one time, like, if Hannah wants Bethany, shouldn't she just tell you that you have to plant it? And said, Hannah's a very good leader. She does not
thanks.
impose her will on top of us, but she makes it known when she wants something done.
I paid her to say that. So that's another one. And I just looked. It's not on the Spring Affair list, but we pretty much always have it at the greenhouse.
Yeah, or we can get it if somebody would let us know that we wanted it. I feel like you could get, that is one that should be available at, any...
Yeah, I guess I don't shop anywhere but our greenhouse, so I don't know.
I try to go
challenge.
around every spring, in the busiest part of my life.
Right.
I try to take time out to show up at Ace Hardware and see what they're selling this year, and show up at different places because I want to know what's accessible to people who can't get to Lincoln to shop from us. It's not very helpful if the only things we recommend are things you have to come get.
Well, that's nice
us.
of you.
I don't always fulfill that, but I feel like Bethany should be reasonably available.
I think so too. Okay, what's one of yours?
Okay, I'm going to go with one I am willing to bet most people have not heard of.
Okay.
And that's wood mint.
Right. We posted it on social media last year.
Yeah. The reason I'm willing to bet most people don't know much about it is because I've only been learning much about it for the last couple of years. And it took me a little bit to figure how it would fit into the garden, but I really like it. It's hyssopy-like in its flowers, but it's shade tolerant.
Yeah, I
And that's
planted
important.
it last year in my shadiest spot.
What do you think of it?
It already has started spreading. So that is one
Okay,
thing. It
that's
is a
good to
true
know.
mint.
It is.
So you do have to be careful. And I put it where the dog normally walks. I have found mint to be the only thing that can stand up to the dog. And since he is on it all the time, it helps manage it. So I think you just have to be choosy.
Well, I think that's an opportunity to talk about plants that maybe we can't put everywhere. And maybe we can't even put in our best spots.
Right.
But we still need to have them because what else would you plant where your dog sleeps?
Right. And like barren strawberry.
Yeah.
That can...
You don't want to plant that in your most fertile
Right.
part of your garden.
Right. But it's perfect in a spot where you're like, I don't know what else to do here.
Nothing else has lived. Yep. And often you'll find out that thing with a bad reputation for spreading just spread because it was too happy. And if you
Right.
put it where nothing else wants to live, it might live, but it's not gonna thrive.
We get to talk about plants like that because they're not beings. So it's okay, guys.
Yes. Thank goodness. Do you have a next one to move on to? I have a couple.
Are we still trying to do some that you could find elsewhere?
I think that it would be nice of us to do that.
So another one, depending on the exact type that you want, but another one that you can find a lot of different places is penstemon.
I was thinking that exact thing. And I was going to point out Husker Red penstemon.
Yeah, that one's more popular around here, of course.
It's Nebraska, and they named it Husker Red penstemon. So I have found that everywhere. Sometimes you're going to maybe... Everybody wants to sell things in gallons. And it drives me nuts because it's not fair to all of your budgets to be buying penstemon in a gallon. It's just not.
No.
So this is a plant you can plant as tiny as you can hold.
Yeah.
And it's very tough. It falls in that category of things that you have to let it seed.
Yep.
Each plant is only going to live for about 3 years. So if you don't let it seed, you planted better than an annual, it's going to live for 3 years.
Right. I mean, it's up to you too. Maybe you like that and then you can replace it if you like to change your garden up every couple of years.
Sometimes when people get hard on plants that don't live forever, I'm like, well, but
you don't
know
forever.
how indecisive I am. And I'm perfectly happy to try something new.
I just want to tell them, like, how are you going to be here in another 100 years? No.
The same person that tells me they can't plant penstemon because it doesn't live forever will complain that they can't plant a tree because they're going to miss out on most of its benefits. So, let's figure out what we think here.
Don't even get me started.
How about... So we're just going to play this game. You're going to go for something people can find, and I'm going to come up with something they can't find.
Okay.
So
you want to come up with one they can't find now?
Iron butterfly ironweed.
Yeah, you can't find that anywhere.
The reason I know that is because I have to go hunting for it so that we can have it.
Right, and we covered that one in Great Plants.
I think we did. It was, oh, you're right. It was the Great Plants.
But that's okay.
Yep.
We'll talk about it again. It's a great plant.
That is actually some of the purpose of the Great Plant Program, though, is that we wanted to push nurseries to have a reason to carry that plant. All right, fine. I'll move on.
I can pick one that you can find.
Okay.
Another one, heuchera.
Ooh, yes.
You can find that anywhere. Menards.
You may not find Heuchera richardsonii, which is the native one, but you can find Americana or Velosa.
And I think that's okay.
I like all of them.
I like the variety in colors.
Yep.
They do well in shady spots.
The flowers are mostly very inconspicuous. This is a plant you're planting for really cool foliage.
Yeah.
And there is some cool colors of foliage. And it's nice to be able to add that in your shade spots.
Low maintenance.
Very. Yeah. I love a heuchera. Let's see. Okay, how about prairie smoke?
Oh, yeah.
This is pretty available. I've seen it a few places.
It's getting more popular. It's like Instagram famous now.
It's also, I feel like more people are carrying it because it dies all the time on people. And
Planted it 3 times and never once has it taken. I gave up.
There is a trick to it. It likes to be drained.
Right.
So this is not for the bottom of the sidewalk crack where all of your rain drains and all of the sand and salt from your driveway drains into. It will hate that.
Which is the first place I planted it.
It's the first place everyone plants it.
I think I drove over it too.
Well, that would probably do it. But if you've got a high dry spot or a spot that you have trouble keeping wet,
high and dry.
That's for this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have one of those spots.
Then
maybe I'll try it one more time.
I think you should try it one more time.
There's also now some new varieties.
Yeah, and since those aren't what we carry, I need to look into them more. Mm-hmm. But I would not be surprised if, based on its popularity, people are trying to make it a little easier to establish.
Yeah, but don't let TikTok trick you. Don't get TikTok tricked.
I don't. What does that even mean?
And they're like, look how pretty, and it's this like cotton candy. I think they've called it like cotton candy prairie smoke, and it's like much fluffier. Oh. And it goes back into that discussion of like, what are they, which we haven't had yet. It's on an upcoming
episode. I wrote an
episode.
Article about it, but we haven't talked about it yet.
Which is like, what are they breeding for?
Yeah.
If they're breeding for that just fluffy good look, maybe that's okay. Or maybe it's not.
I don't know in this particular case how much it matters, because I don't think it's insect pollinated.
Oh, okay.
But let's not quote me on that yet. We'll save it for that episode. Mm-hmm. I'll do the research. We'll figure it out.
There's an article. Yeah. You can read it.
But like Hanna said, it looks like a troll doll's head.
It does.
And it's so cool.
It is really cool.
That's the flower, not the seed.
Right.
So you'll like watch forever if you're looking for a flower with petals. It's just this like troll hair thing, puff.
It like cotton candy.
Yeah. Or smoke.
Right. Which is why it's called prairie smoke.
Okay. We can't move on from summer without talking about mountain mint.
Well, sure.
It's just not possible.
Are we going to have to retire talking about mountain mint?
Probably.
And Bethany?
I'm only going to make one comment about mountain mint.
Okay.
Because we have talked about it a lot. Uh-huh. And that is, I am starting to see it be foundable. Findable, visible, available. That's the right word.
It's Friday.
I have seen it more and more available, specifically the Virginiana species.
Say that again?
Virginiana. Did I say it wrong?
No.
Virginiana.
Keep.
You say it.
It's not that I think you're saying it wrong. It's that it sounds like other things. So I wanted to see how many times I could get you to say it.
I was just deeply invested in finding my plants. Okay. How about bee balm?
Let's talk about bee balm.
She put her notes down.
We did. I have mixed feelings about bee balm. Partly because I can't grow it, but other people can.
So you just have a personal problem.
I have a personal problem. But other people get so like, oh, it's taking over my yard. I can plant a whole plant every year, and it never does anything.
First of all, I think turf grass is taking over my yard, and someone should kill it because it's in my way. That's what I hear when people say that. I would hazard a suspicion that a lot of the people that claim it's taking over their yard do more supplemental watering than they need to do.
And I'm wondering if I mulch too much around it. Last year, when it went to seed, I pulled back all the mulch.
Trying to get it to seed.
Yes.
And I would say that's a takeaway. If you have trouble with it seeding, put a little mulch buffer around that plant. Mm-hmm. I would hazard a few guesses that they left more open space in their gardens than you did, because I think you plant similarly to me, and if there's a spot for a plant, you put a plant in it.
Correct.
It's also a little faster to flower and seed than some species. Mm-hmm. So while you've got a plant that's still kind of small and might take up more space in the future, the bee balm gets going and starts to take up some of that space. But as soon as it's shaded, it's going to be gone.
So here's my other question. Does bee balm have any foliage? Because to me, it's always been just a flower. It
should have foliage, but it's one of those ones that, it's like Pooh Bear. It only has a shirt.
Right.
It doesn't really...
There's no bottoms.
There's no bottom. It, like...
Off its virginity. Okay. Anyway, we can cut that.
We might have to do a little editing to this episode.
Okay, so bee-balm doesn't have as much foliage as you might expect on another
it might
plant.
be, say it's going to be 3 feet tall, and it might only really truly have leaves for the top 1.5 feet. And maybe, you know, the top 6 to 10 inches is pretty well leafed out, and then it gets sparser and sparser, and at the bottom there may not be any.
Okay.
It's definitely a plant that looks its best planted with things around it.
Right.
There's other plants like that too. It's not alone in that.
Well, I planted it amongst my mini asters so that there would be something blooming in the summer around them, and then the asters are a little bushier, so it covers up the nakedness of the bee balm.
It's not as bad as the naked lady flowers, which are just kind of freaky.
I want one.
Oh, you like them?
I like them.
I just like, they look weird to me because there's no leaves, and that just like, it's like my purple maple tree that's 100% healthy, but it bothers me because it's the wrong color.
I mean, part of it might be because I have fond memories of driving around town with my dad, and he'd go, "Look at the naked ladies." It's
and
like
it's
the ultimate
funny.
dad joke.
Yep. Yep.
We'd all go, where?
I think there's another more like family friendly. I don't know. That's not really that bad of a joke.
No. There's other
another name,
names
but I can't think of it because why would I want any other name than that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Oh, with bee balm, the other thing people complain about is powdery mildew.
Yes.
And to some extent,
Get that complaint all the time.
bee balm just has powdery mildew. Now, there's a few things to make it less intense, and one is if you've got really bad powdery mildew on your bee balm, turn off your overhead sprinkler.
Right.
That definitely makes it worse.
That's one thing we tell people when they're buying bee balm from the greenhouse. Well, all of our watering has to be overhead.
Yeah.
Whether it's by watering wand or the sprinklers.
There's just no choice in a greenhouse.
No, we can't do underground.
But you can. And
Right.
if you're watering, say you're just watering to establish, so you're using a watering wand on a hose. Once you plant it in the ground, water the soil.
Right.
Don't water the plant. Because it just makes that powdery mildew worse.
Right.
There's also some varieties that are more resistant to it. I'm still laughing about the way they named purple mildew resistant is one of the ones they sell, and I'm just like, really, that's the best you could come up with.
Excellent marketing. I mean, if you're worried about mildew, it is good marketing.
It tells you what you're getting, and it's better than some of the maybe, what would you call it, like the socially unacceptable names that
Correct.
we're working with fighting in plants.
Well, and they're slowly getting
They are,
changed.
yeah.
for-
They're just, people are calling, the nice thing about common names is you just start calling it something else, and
Right.
eventually that catches on. Okay, we should probably move on from
to
summer.
fall.
Yeah. Let's talk about your aster garden.
Oh my gosh. It's my first sign of fall. So you all should know I don't much like summer because I hate being hot. So I enjoy spring and fall. Also don't much like winter. And I think I should not live here. But
I mean, you get like 6 weeks out of the year that you're
pretty
content?
much.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's rough. That's why you went to Cancun.
That's why I have to go to Cancun in November. So asters are that first sign of fall, and then they last forever. Like, I think we had asters through Thanksgiving this year.
Wow.
At least that still had blooms. Now, were the blooms frozen on? Perhaps. But that's okay. They're still there.
I mean, sometimes flowers freeze dry, and I don't care. It's still colorful. So do I care
Right.
that it's actually dead? No.
I mean, my Wichita goldenrod still sticking out of the snow. You know, so there's things like that. Sarah just did an excellent plant talk on winter beauty. And it's those types of things that don't break down so fast that can provide you some of that winter structure
Yeah.
to view the the snow on. I'm getting better at liking winter, actually, just because I've gotten better about how I dress in the winter, which makes a big difference. But in the summer, there's only so many clothes you can take off before it's not acceptable.
Before you end up like a Menarda.
To show up at work. So there's that. So I think I love a good aster. Any aster. Like, I don't even care. I love my Snow Flurry aster. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I love my Radon's aster. I love October Skies. I'm just going to keep naming all the asters I know. They're wonderful.
The thing I like about asters, too, is they're a gap bridger. Like we talked about with spring. We have the same thing in the fall. When does fall start? Is it when school starts? Is it when it starts to frost? Like, what is fall? So asters are one of those ones that, like, there's a variety. There's asters that don't bloom until it's truly cool. But there's some that start blooming kind of like Snow Flurry aster. Starts blooming in August. At least for me it has. Mm-hmm. And then continues all the way until it freezes.
And like I said, same with some goldenrod. And so I like to mix the two.
Yeah.
For sure.
I want to kind of...
Lady in Black aster.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool one. Gosh. I love aster with goldenrod.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a classic. It's like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Just goes together.
Put it together.
Mm-hmm. And the nice thing about asters and goldenrods is maybe you may not find the same species that we just talked about, but you can find an aster anywhere.
I think you can find radons almost anywhere.
I think you can. And there is a difference. You'll see at like box stores, the asters they sell with the mums.
Right.
I've had them come back just fine, but they've not necessarily been grown to make sure that they are hardy for you. They've been grown to make sure they're a little puffball in a pot. So I've had them come back, even in my pots, but I don't plant them and count on them coming back like a perennial. I treat them like a fall decoration. The asters that you find in the perennial section during planting season, you can find so many different kind of asters. Right. Even, down to the checkout aisle in your grocery store. So what's
a fall blooming one that maybe is a little more unique?
Ooh, okay.
That you can think of?
Well, sage isn't going to be surprising. Everybody knows that sage blooms in the fall. But a specific sage that I love is blue sage, or Salvia azarea, which is native. And it takes a little bit to love it, because if it had its choice, it would just be like one stem sticking out of the ground, blooming at the top.
I caught it on fire one time.
You caught it on fire?
It survived.
How did you catch it on fire?
I put the grill too close.
Okay.
Because it's tall and it falls.
Yeah, that's a fire hazard.
And it fell onto the grill, and it was not noticed in a timely fashion.
Did it flavor your food?
I don't think so, because it was the outside of the grill.
Oh, okay.
So also it didn't catch on fire so much as just burn. It was not as eventful as it sounds.
Bummer.
But so now I do keep an eye on that and like use some landscape tape to pull it back sometimes.
I found this is a prime suspect for the cut it back in June method of managing tall gangly plants.
Okay.
When you wait till like late May, early June, depending on when things bloom. The later it blooms, the later you can cut it.
Right.
And cut it in half. Or even with this sage, I cut it into I leave a third
Why?
of its height.
Why not just
It causes it to branch.
Okay. All right.
So you don't have to. This is just a technique that you don't have to do.
I planted a bunch last year.
Oh.
And so I'm excited to show you all, because in my little spot that I decided to make a prairie in about a 10 by 10 area. It's going to be a small prairie.
This will be very interesting.
But I am excited to see it poke up around the I put a ton of grasses.
Ooh, yeah.
And then I have some.
You
some
planted a bouquet.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very excited to see that. I tried to do the same thing, except I was one time listening to a podcast and not paying attention while I was weeding, and I weeded them.
I've done that.
So I only have one left, and I'm going to fix that this spring. But I'm down to one sage.
Yeah.
my favorite thing about this one is it is like powder blue.
Yes.
It is so like soft and not fall-like of a color. Because in fall we expect
Very
like
spring-like.
bright yellow and orange and aster purples, and then it's just like this little like baby blue. It looks like it belongs in spring. It also like always has a bumblebee on it.
Yeah.
And they take the prettiest pictures with the blue and the yellow and the black.
It only fits one bumblebee in a flower at a time. It's a very small opening.
It's kind of delicate and it's really pretty.
All you can see is their little bumblebee butt sticking out. It's kind of fun.
So that's my maybe harder to find, and maybe it's more available than I think it is.
Is this different than pitcher sage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's so many kinds of sage.
Yeah. Maybe I have pitchers. I haven't decided. Whatever I have it. Do we have any more fall, or are we ready to talk grasses?
Ooh. Well, maybe let's back up a tiny bit and talk about some of those like bridge flowers that are maybe late summer, maybe fall. And maybe let's just do like a couple of them so that we save lots of grass time.
Okay.
But I wanted to make sure we did this because of liatris.
Yes.
And I think you guys have heard us mention liatris. There's not enough mentions of liatris to make me happy.
Correct.
It has most often it's blazing star. Sometimes it's gay feather for its common name, depending on the species. But purple spikes, love them. And I love how they, like you said, they last into the winter as this like really sturdy spike that collects ice and snow and adds texture to the garden. But again, like bees, butterflies, monarchs are attracted to this like a magnet. And I think I've seen a limited number of species available in, maybe a variety of stores, but I feel like every garden center has something.
They
available.
Absolutely do. Yeah, that is definitely one.
So I think we have carried like up to 5 species at a time of liatris, but I think that anywhere you're shopping for perennials, you're going to find a liatris.
Yes, I agree.
And along that same route, things that we know you can find is coreopsis. Just so many different kinds, and all lovely in their own way. But they're great for that, like, they start blooming midsummer, and they just pretty much keep going.
Yes. Yeah, so. They definitely, that's true.
You were looking for something.
I was, and I found it.
Something to share with the class.
Thank you for filling time. So, because I wanted to talk about a grass that bridges.
Yeah. Because that's the perfect bridge. A grass bridging time into our grass segment.
So I was trying to find a picture of my side-outs grandma blooming.
Did you find one?
I did.
Okay.
And it's
text it to me now before you forget.
It's from August.
Oh, that's perfect timing.
So it also kind of bridges that out. And you know what you can see in the background? Bethany.
I should have guessed.
So I'm going to send you a couple pictures because it's so pretty. And I think it is it's one of those where it looks pretty just as a grass. And then if you take the time to look, you see these little teeny flowers. And they're just perfect. Oh, yeah. Let me send it to you first.
Okay, good idea.
And then you can see it.
Okay. Oh, those are so pretty. It's bright red.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing I like about that is that a lot of our grasses, by August, we're seeing the seeds.
Right.
So it's kind of neat to have a grass that we're still seeing the flowers of.
And this one for sure did that. And I think you can actually, now that I'm looking, you can also see some allium still blooming in the background.
In August. Wow.
In August.
Yeah.
I mean, don't go off of one garden. That's just mine.
You have a very sheltered neighborhood that probably stays a little warm.
And,
maybe not.
And it is the hill strip too. So
it's right there by the road. Yeah. Okay, so we've got side oats. I think side oats is pretty available.
I think so.
If you can't
Same
get
with
it
blue grama.
If you can't get it at the garden center, just go to the seeding company because it's a part of all of your pastures. So it's very available. And yeah, blue grama I know is available.
Yeah.
They are very different looking plants.
They are.
Side oats is just like what it sounds. All the little flowers and seeds dangle off the side. And blue grama is the little caterpillar seed head, which is...
I've heard somebody else describe it as eyebrows.
Eyebrows or a little mustache.
Yeah. And my blue grama, once again, still sticking up out of the snow. It's very solid.
You know what that makes me want to do is make like a little cartoon man with blue grama for eyebrows and a mustache.
Please do. I like it.
Okay. How about the blue stems?
Yes. So I have also in that hell strip. That hell strip last year went from actual hell to one of my favorite gardens.
That's awesome.
I also planted a variety of little blue stem. Autumn
fire. Autumn blaze. There's like 3 autumns.
Yeah. I'll figure out which one. I think it's Autumn Blaze.
I think it's Autumn Blaze too. Did you get it from Bob?
Yes.
It's Autumn Blaze.
And so it's like orange.
Ooh.
All the time.
Ooh.
So that's really fun.
I like that.
And that's the foliage that's orange.
Okay.
So grasses have flowers, as we've said.
They do.
So, but even if you don't see the flowers, you can see the orange just color of the grass.
Okay.
Year round.
I like it. I don't suppose you got a picture of it.
I probably have one
because I can
somewhere.
pull up like the sales pictures from the nursery, but like sometimes it's nice to see that it really does that in someone's actual garden at their house.
Right. I'll take a picture.
Okay.
Or I'll find one.
I love little blue stem for its color. And that's neat that it stays that most of the year.
Yeah.
Big blue stem I love for its flowers.
I don't know if I've ever seen a big blue stem flower in person.
Picture of a blue stem flower. I use it for the plant card for Bloombox. I'll put it in the show notes. But, we all know you identify big blue stem because it's turkey foot shaped seeds. But the flowers are the same shape. But they just dangle off, and then it's like this little flower opening, and then the pollen just dangles down out of that.
Right.
And that's because grasses are wind pollinated. So they want to make sure they get maximum wind contact. I don't know what you say that.
I think that's... They want blown around a lot
to be taken by the wind.
Right.
Oh. Any other? Before we go to sedges, how about switchgrass?
I don't have any switchgrass.
I know
like nothing about switchgrass.
Okay. So switchgrass is kind of a neat category. It's the panicums. There's a lot of variety in it. There's some really, really big ones. And I think those are the ones that most people notice because they're like,
giant.
What is that giant grass?
Yeah.
It's not as giant as like elephant grass or anything, but they can be big. But there are some smaller ones, like the blues and things that are only like 3 or 4 feet tall. And I really like switchgrass for how it just makes this clump and it's just sturdy. And it's really neat to like plant that clump of switchgrass, like maybe in the corner of your 2 fences where you really hate crawling behind stuff to weed. Stick that switchgrass right in that corner and nothing is going to grow into that switchgrass.
That's true.
And then it's like, kind of a vase. So the bottom might be a little boring. It's just the leaves going into the ground. But the top is these big fluffy grass heads.
Right.
So you can plant that as like a centerpiece and all your plants just around it. I like it for that.
Yeah.
And I hate weeding in fence corners, so.
Sure. Me too.
Okay. Any other grass you want to talk about before we talk sedges?
No, let's go to sedges.
Okay. This I want to spend some time on because I don't think we get a chance to highlight the variety of sedges we use very often. So, sedges are all in the Carex genus. They have edges. Grass blades are flat or round, so there's your difference.
But sometimes you still put them in the grass, and then it confuses me.
I know. We use them like grasses in the garden.
Yeah.
And I...
Kind of.
I tried to do some research, like, okay, so yeah, they're triangular stems instead of round or flat. Like, still, like, what does that mean? And I didn't get a great answer in terms that I could understand because I only took 1 year of botany. But as far as I'm concerned, they function like grasses in the landscape. Mm. Although maybe I do tend to use them as more ground covering rather than centerpiece, like I would use a grass.
Right.
Because a lot of them can be shorter. They have a tendency to be kind of evergreen. Mm-hmm. But then they're just so tough.
Yes.
There is a sedge for the driest dry shade that you can come up with. And there is a sedge for the wettest wet shade you can come up with.
Absolutely.
And the same for sun. And sometimes it's the same one that grows in all of those places.
So I have a picture of a sedge here, and I'm trying to remember which type. It's not on your list. It's a new one that Bob started last year, so he gave me a couple to test out. This picture was taken February 14th.
And it's bright green.
It's still green, and clearly it's been eaten, most likely by my dog, but probably some other things. And it's still just doing its thing.
Yeah.
Like, it does not
completely
care.
Green.
Ooh, that's
it looks like that's a heart-shaped pizza. Yeah. I'll go for that too.
Yeah, but like, and I'll send you these too. But like all winter.
Yeah, it just looks like if you didn't see the like dry leaves around that, you would say that was just a summer picture.
And it is next to my house, so
that probably helps.
It's sheltered a bit, but I mean, I think it does stuff. I'll ask Bob what it is.
Okay, we'll put that in the caption.
Cherokee sedge.
Cherokeensis. That was the new one that we got. Mm-hmm. Two of my favorites are Texas sedge and Plains oval sedge.
Yeah.
And I love Texas sedge because it's tiny. It's like 6 inches tall.
Oh my gosh, it's like a little fluffy ball.
And it will never, ever get over that. And it makes this little puff, and it will never get bigger than that. Mm-hmm.
It's like if you buried a troll. And just
its hair was sticking out.
There you go.
We don't advocate for burying trolls. Should you ever meet one, let's be nice to them.
Yeah, right.
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Anyway, I like it. It's very, very drought tolerant, but it wants to be established. Mm-hmm. So it's not one that I can do my usual practice of pretending that I establish plants by watering them twice and then forgetting about them.
Yeah.
I did need to water it for the full month to 6 weeks, but after that it's been completely drought tolerant.
I've had really good luck with palm sedge too.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Everybody has good luck with palm sedge. So I don't think you can kill it.
I shouldn't take pride in that.
I think you should take pride in everything that grows. But I am curious to know what you think of it. How long have you had it?
3 years.
Okay. Do you feel that it's very aggressive, or does it do exactly what you want it to do?
Unfortunately, it's not aggressive at all.
Really?
I was looking for it to take over.
Maybe there's something wrong with your yard.
I think there is. The spot I have it in is very dog wandered.
Okay.
I think so. It has a lot of things going against it. It's very shaded. Uh-huh. It's very clay.
See, but that's exactly the right place for that plant. If you put palm sedge in a super fertile, well-watered, bright, sunny spot,
right,
you would probably be complaining to me that it grew too dense for anything else to exist.
It's seeds, right? It doesn't spread. That's how it spreads.
I think it does both, which is part of sometimes the problem.
Well, because I also think the dog eats it. And so it's not, the seed isn't spreading.
Oh, well, see, that's
he
perfect.
Eats the tops.
We used it in Garing at that plant grant last year at a greenhouse where they have a very, very slanted roof and no gutter. And they were having problems with the rain eroding. And so we planted a double line of palm sedge right where the rain hit the gutter should be. Mm-hmm. And so it can take that beating.
Right.
It's going to be fine. And it spreads slowly too. It's not like mint where you go from having one mint plant to having an entire yard of mint in 1 year.
I did plant some Pennsylvania sedge next to it just to see which one would do better. the palm sedge is definitely making it.
In what you described, that makes sense to me. I think the deep clay would be hard for the Pennsylvania.
Well, and it's also disturbed clay because it's where we put our patio.
Oh, yeah.
So
I think that would be very hard for the Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
My other favorite is the Plains Oval Carrick's Brevier. And I have yet to find a place that doesn't do well. That's not extreme conditions. So, like, it does sun to
your
shade.
caveat for me?
Yeah. It does sun to shade, and it does wet to dry, but it probably won't do deep dry shade.
Right.
So it's like it has a very wide range, but the two ends of the spectrum, we probably need to stick to the things meant for those. And it's just very well. It is the shape it was advertised as.
There you go.
So it's like 1.5 feet tall and 1.5 feet wide, dark green, minus, just like you said, minus still dark green.
Right.
I actually think they're very similarly related to Cherokeensis, which was part of the reason why we chose to try that one.
Right. So far, I would give a full thumbs up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should keep carrying it.
I used this one to edge our patio garden because we were having problems with the mulch running into the patio.
Right.
And so it's just acted as that kind of...
The edger.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a brick.
Yeah. Because the main problem wasn't water running out of the garden, but water collecting there from the patio.
Oh, yeah.
And then it would float the mulch back on. And over time, I'm hoping that those sedges will increase the infiltration so that it doesn't pool as much.
Playing the long game here.
I'm playing the long game. Yeah.
Okay.
Ish. Until I get bored and put something else there.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I haven't looked at the time for a while. Yeah. We should probably stop.
We're over a little bit. Are you ready for your plant of the week?
No. I'm not. I forgot about that. I'm sure that I can come up with one. Oh, I know what it is.
You can go first.
It's this fuzzy thing
I do love
that I
this
bought
fuzzy
from the
thing.
horticulture club last week because they parked themselves right outside the dining hall where I had to eat. And so I had to buy a plant.
You got to eat.
I got to eat. Well, it's not really optional, no.
Somebody else paid for it.
No. Oh, for the food.
Yeah.
They didn't pay for my plant. And Chrissy even, helped make me stop. So we both bought a plant from the Hort Club because as alumni, we felt we should never walk past one of their plant sales without.
That was very nice. My parents bought 3.
I did not buy 3. But I don't have the faintest clue what this is.
Oh my gosh, look at its little nub sticking up.
It has nubs. It is fuzzy. And
it reminds me of mouse ears.
Yeah. It reminds me of like cobwebs, but like ones I want to touch. Because I don't like to touch cobwebs. Anyway.
By the way, I like mouse ears.
I like mice. I think they're cute.
Okay.
I don't like...
Just putting it out there for the record. I'm not trying...
You-
Some people might go, ooh, mouse ears,
She wasn't
gross.
insulting it.
No, that's exactly what I want. I had rats, and I loved to pet their little ears.
I don't love rats because I think their tails are icky.
I love their tails.
I want to like rats
They
because
wrap
I know
them around you.
They... Ugh. You just made that worse.
Sorry. It's a full body shudder. Use them for balance.
I understand that. I want to like rats because I know that they make very good pets. But I don't want their tails to touch.
It's my number 1 recommended pet for first-time pets for kids.
That's good to know.
They're sturdy.
That is good.
They're hard to break. And they're trainable.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to like them because I heard they could learn lots of tricks.
And they're much nicer than like a hamster.
I am always
Gerbils
disappointed
are the
by
worst.
hamsters because they're so cute and they're so mean. Every
Mice work
hamster
too, but
I've ever met bit me.
yeah. But I think rats are a little bigger. They're easier to hold on to. Guinea pigs, if you pick them up wrong, you can squeeze all their internal organs because their ribs don't go all the way around like most. So you have to be very careful with guinea pigs.
Oh, poor guinea pigs.
So I start with a rat, then go to a guinea pig. I love kitty
Where do
cakes.
bunnies fall in your...
Well, so bunnies, I think, require a bit more attention. I don't think
so
they're good
too.
for kids.
I think they're very hard for kids because they're so skittish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, Silas has learned he's never not had a bunny.
Right.
But we still, every once in a while, he'll be like, why doesn't she want to play with me? And we're like, because you're screaming at her.
Yeah, they have a lot more autonomy. I think rats are so social that they'll like... I used to wear a hoodie, and they would just be in my pocket all day.
That's what I want my bunny to do.
Yeah.
But bunnies are like cats, and they allow you to pet them when they choose.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've only met a couple bunnies that were more able to be petted whenever.
Yeah. I mean, she will, like, I can pick her up whenever I want to,
Right.
but she doesn't necessarily stay unless
Yeah.
she is interested.
Right.
Okay, we got sidetracked.
back to plants.
What's your plant of the week?
You know, this is a great question. I think my plant of the week is in the last episode. Yes, it was the last episode. You talked about my pathos that I had just in water.
Yeah.
I moved it to a pot. Well, I moved one of them. There
Okay.
was 3 cuttings in there. I need 2 more pots.
I have 3 pots. Would you like one?
Ooh, yeah, I'll take one. And so I moved one to a pot, and I'm trying to baby it through. Because, you know, going from a water environment to, like, now you got to pull it out of the soil.
Gotta do. It probably doesn't
Like-
have much for root hairs.
No. So I've been keeping it pretty watered, trying to keep it happy. So that's my plan. Pretty soon we'll be able to get into what's blooming, because I bet
this is
Lenten Rose will come
March
up soon.
6th. So we could have bulbs or Lenten Rose here in a week or 2.
Yeah.
That's going to be exciting. I'm going to have to remember to look for something blooming instead of just pulling a plant out of my office for my
Right.
plant of the week.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be awesome. All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Don't forget to rate and review us. Make Hanna pay. That's what we're doing. Send us your questions because we're getting into gardening season, so we want to hear. You can use our SpeakPipe link, or you can just send us an email. Either way. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Don't forget to rate and review us. Send us your questions. Bloombox and Bloombox Growing Deeper are both programs of the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum.